It was a warm, sunny morning, and the golden light poured down over the wide fields. Quang, a hard-working farmer with a gentle smile, walked slowly between the tall rows of corn that stretched far and wide. The plants swayed slightly in the breeze, their golden ears shining brightly under the sun. Quang wiped the sweat from his forehead with the sleeve of his shirt and smiled at the sight before him. "Wow," he whispered to himself, "this corn is so big and sweet this year." He bent down and carefully examined one of the ears, feeling its weight and checking the kernels. The sun was high in the sky and blazing hot, but Quang didn't mind. He was proud of his harvest. "It's hot today," he said, "but this corn will sell really well at the market." He moved from row to row, picking only the best ears, big, golden, and healthy, then gently placed them into a pair of large cloth bags. After filling 2 bags, he took a step back and looked at them. "This should be enough for today," he thought. He slung the bags over his shoulder, careful not to crush the corn, and walked to where his old bicycle stood parked at the edge of the field. He loaded the bags onto the back, tied them down, and began pedaling home, his heart light with hope and excitement. Back at home, Linda was sitting on the wooden bench just outside the house, enjoying the shade and waiting patiently. As soon as Quang pulled into the yard, he called out, "Have you been here long?" Linda smiled warmly and replied, "Yes, for a little while." Quang parked his bike, lifted the corn bags off the back, and brought them inside. "Look at this harvest," he said proudly. "Isn't it great? Let's go visit my mother today, she's staying at my grandmother's house." Linda's eyes lit up with joy. "That sounds lovely," she said, nodding with excitement. Before leaving, Quang took one last look at the corn he had just brought in. He gently touched a few ears, making sure they were still fresh and perfect. "This will make our customers really happy," he said to himself, his voice full of quiet confidence. As they made their way through the village road, Quang and Linda decided to make a quick stop at a small grocery shop that stood at the corner of the street. "Wait here for a minute," Quang told Linda. "I want to get something special for my mother." Inside the shop, he browsed the wooden shelves and carefully chose a few gifts, some nice tea leaves, fresh fruits, and a small, delicate cake wrapped in a pink box. Just then, Linda spotted a bouquet of fresh flowers by the door. "Can I get these for your mom too?" she asked, her voice soft and hopeful. Quang turned to her, smiling with admiration. "You're so thoughtful," he said. "Yes, she'll absolutely love them." Together, they paid for the gifts, packed them neatly, and continued on their journey, chatting and laughing along the way. They talked about how surprised and happy Quang's mother would be when she saw them arrive with all the gifts. After some time, they finally reached a small, cozy house nestled between tall green trees. It had a warm, welcoming look, with potted plants lining the windows and a little wooden fence out front. Quang stepped forward and called out, "Mom, we're here." A moment later, the door opened, and his mother stepped out. Her eyes widened in surprise when she saw them. "Oh my! Quang and Linda! What a wonderful surprise," she exclaimed, rushing over to hug them both tightly. Her smile was wide and full of joy. "Come inside quickly, it's too hot to stand out here," she said, waving them in. Inside the house, it was cool and peaceful. The soft scent of fresh tea drifted through the air, and the wooden furniture gave the home a comforting charm. Quang's mother began to prepare cups of tea as they all sat down together, catching up and enjoying the happy moment. Inside the cozy little house, the smell of tea filled the air as Quang's mother moved around the kitchen with care and love. She brought out her best teapot, the one she saved for special visits, and began pouring hot water over the tea leaves. Sit down," she said with a smile, waving her hands toward the living room chairs. Her voice was gentle, filled with the kind of kindness that only a mother's voice carries. Quang and Linda settled in, setting their bags of gifts nearby. Quang stood up and walked over to his mother, handing her the small bundle of items he'd picked up from the store. "These are for you, Mom," he said warmly. She paused, clearly touched by the gesture. "Oh, my dear," she said softly, taking the gifts into her hands. "You didn't have to bring anything." But thank you so much. Her eyes sparkled with appreciation. She carefully opened the wrapping on the flowers first, the ones Linda had chosen. As soon as she saw them, her face lit up. These are beautiful, Linda. What lovely taste you have. You're so kind to think of me. Linda smiled shyly, her cheeks turning a light shade of pink. She wasn't used to praise, but it warmed her heart. Quang's mother walked to a corner of the room and placed the flowers in a tall glass vase, setting them right in the center of the table where everyone could admire them. Once the tea was ready, they all gathered around the small wooden table, cups in hand. The tea was warm and comforting. As they sipped, Quang looked at his mother and asked, "How are you feeling these days, Mom?" She took a slow breath, then gave a tired but honest smile. "I'm much better now, thank you. But your grandmother, she's still quite weak. I've been staying here to take care of her." Her voice carried a quiet strength, the kind that comes from years of love and responsibility. Quang nodded with concern but also confidence. "I'm glad you're getting better. And don't worry too much about Grandma. She's strong. Just like you." His mother smiled back, her eyes showing deep pride in her son. Then, wanting to share some good news, Quang leaned forward a little. "Guess what? I'm almost done building the house," he said with excitement. "It's really coming together now. And Linda has been helping me every step of the way." His mother's face beamed with happiness as she turned to Linda. "That's wonderful. The two of you make a great team," she said warmly. She reached over and gently patted Linda's hand. "You're always welcome here, dear. You're like family." Quang chuckled, leaning back in his chair. "Careful, Mom. Sounds like you love her more than me now." His mother laughed out loud, and Linda covered her mouth, giggling. The room was filled with laughter and warmth, the kind that makes a house feel like home. After finishing their tea, Quang's mother stood up and motioned for them to follow her. "Come on, I want to show you something," she said with a little twinkle in her eye. She led them to a wooden shelf in the hallway, where a row of old family photos was neatly arranged. She pointed at one particular picture. "Look at this, Quang when he was just a little boy." Linda leaned in and let out a giggle. It showed a tiny version of Quang with wild, messy hair and a huge grin, holding a toy tractor. "You were so cute," she teased, smiling brightly. Quang groaned and rolled his eyes. "Oh no, not the baby pictures again. Mom, why do you always bring these out?" She chuckled and gave his arm a light tap. "Because it's a mother's duty to embarrass her son. That's the rule." They all laughed again, and the mood stayed light and cheerful. Eventually, their conversation shifted to more practical things. "So, how's work going?" his mother asked. Quang nodded confidently. "Sales have been good lately. The corn has been really popular at the market." His mother looked at him with admiration. "You've always been a hard worker," she said. "Just don't forget to rest sometimes. Even the strongest need time to breathe." Quang smiled and gave a small nod. "I will. But first, I really want to finish the house." He looked over at Linda, who gave him a supportive glance. Quang's mother saw the quiet determination in his face, and her eyes softened. "Good things come to those who wait," she said gently, "and even better things come to those who work hard." As the gentle afternoon sun painted the sky in soft gold, Quang's mother looked out the window and smiled. "Let's go to the garden," she said. "The air is fresh out there, and the breeze will do us good." Quang and Linda followed her outside, stepping into a little piece of paradise. The garden was full of life, bright green leaves danced in the wind, colorful flowers swayed gently, and birds chirped happily from the trees above. A small pond lay in the middle of the garden, its surface sparkling under the sun like a mirror. Tiny waves rippled across the water as fish glided lazily beneath the surface. "Look at them," Linda said with wide eyes, pointing at the fish. "They're huge." Quang's mother chuckled, clearly proud of her garden's peaceful little ecosystem. "They've grown so well," she said. "They love the grass we feed them." She bent down, picked a handful of soft grass, and gently tossed it into the water. In a flash, the fish darted to the surface, their mouths opening and closing as they gobbled it up. Linda laughed with delight at the sight, the sound of her joy blending perfectly with the garden's peace. Not far from the pond, a vine stretched across the ground, its leaves large and healthy. Hidden among them were round, striped melons. Quang's mother crouched beside the vine and examined one of them closely. "This one is ready," she said, gently twisting the melon off its stem. She took out a small knife and cut it open with practiced hands. The inside revealed a deep, juicy red color. "Try it," she said, holding out a slice. Linda took a bite, and her face lit up. "It's so sweet," she said with a big smile. Quang tasted it too, nodding in agreement. "Delicious. You grow the best melons, Mom." His mother waved a hand humbly. "It's not me," she said. "It's the rich soil and this beautiful weather. Nature does most of the work, I just help it along." They found a spot in the shade, where the air was cool and the sound of the wind through the trees made everything feel even more peaceful. As they sat, Quang noticed something shining faintly on Linda's wrist. It was the bracelet he had given her long ago, a simple silver one with a tiny charm. "That still looks nice on you," he said, smiling. Linda looked down at it and touched it softly. "It's special," she replied. "You gave it to me, so I wear it all the time." Quang's mother watched the exchange with a twinkle in her eye. Well, she teased, Quang never used to buy gifts for anyone. "Looks like he's learning." Quang grinned, pretending to shrug off the comment. "What can I say? Linda inspires me." The hours slipped by like a pleasant dream, filled with stories and laughter. Quang's mother began sharing tales from when Quang was a boy. "Did you know," she said, turning to Linda with a playful grin, "he once brought home a stray dog and hid it in his closet because he thought I wouldn't notice?" Linda burst into laughter. "Really?" she asked. "What happened?" Quang groaned and covered his face with his hands. "Oh no, not this story again," but his mother continued, enjoying every moment. "And another time, he tried to sell little rocks from the backyard as magic stones to the neighbor kids. He even made signs." Linda laughed so hard she had to wipe tears from her eyes. "I didn't know you were such a troublemaker," she teased him. Quang shook his head. "Mom, you're supposed to protect my secrets, not share them." His mother just gave him a playful wink. "A mother's job is never done," she said. As the sun began to dip lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the garden, Quang's phone rang. He stepped aside to answer it, and when he returned, his smile was a little smaller. "That was work," he said quietly. "They need me back sooner than I thought." His mother nodded, understanding. "Duty calls," she said calmly. "But Linda can stay a little longer, right?" Linda looked at Quang, then turned to his mother. "I'd love to stay," she said sincerely. "This place feels like home." Quang gave Linda a grateful look. "Thanks. I'll come back soon, I promise." He hugged his mother tightly. "Take care, Mom. Tell Grandma I said hi." His mother patted his back. "I will. Drive safe." With one last wave, Quang turned and began walking toward his bike. As he disappeared down the path, Linda and his mother stayed behind in the garden. With Quang gone, the air filled with the gentle scent of melon, but a warm sense of calm lingered. Linda followed his mother into the kitchen, eager to help. The two women moved easily around each other, preparing ingredients for dinner as the late sunlight streamed in through the windows. As they chopped vegetables together, Quang's mother paused to watch Linda slice a carrot with practiced ease. "You're good at this," she said, pleasantly surprised. Linda smiled without looking up. "I learned from my grandmother. She used to say, if you can't cook, how will you take care of the people you love? So I practiced." Quang's mother nodded, a soft, nostalgic look in her eyes. Family recipes are always the best. They carry so many memories. "Maybe one day, you'll teach Quang." Linda laughed, shaking her head. If he can sit still long enough, maybe I will. Dinner was simple but full of flavor: stir-fried vegetables, steamy rice, and a fragrant soup. They sat down together, and the conversation drifted easily. Eventually, the topic returned to Quang. He was always running around when he was little, his mother said, eyes crinkling with fondness. Climbing trees, chasing chickens, never staying in one place. But he had a big heart. Once, when he was barely 8, he saved all his pocket money for months, just to buy me a scarf he saw at the market. Linda looked over, touched by the story. He still has that kindness, she said softly. You can feel it in the little things he does. His mother reached across the table and gently patted Linda's hand. That's why I'm glad he has you now. Later, after the dishes were washed and the kitchen was clean, they sat outside together again, this time with warm cups of herbal tea in hand. The stars were beginning to appear, and the sounds of crickets filled the cool night air. Linda took a sip and smiled. This tea is so fragrant. What's in it? Quang's mother smiled. Lemongrass, ginger, a little dried chrysanthemum. Good for your health. It helps calm the heart. She paused, then looked over at Linda with a thoughtful expression. You know, Quang talks about you often. Not just in passing. He really cares for you. Linda lowered her eyes, her fingers wrapped gently around the teacup. I care for him too, she said, her voice quiet but steady. Just then, the phone rang inside. Linda stood and went to answer. It was Quang. Is everything okay? She asked. Yes, he said, his voice cheerful. I finished early. I'm on my way to pick you up. Be there soon. When Quang arrived, the night had settled in fully, and the stars were shining bright above the house. His mother hugged them both tightly at the door. Come back anytime, she said with warmth. Quang smiled. We will, Mom. As they rode home through quiet streets under the night sky, Linda leaned her head gently against his shoulder. Your mother is amazing, she said, her voice full of admiration. Quang smiled, his eyes on the road ahead. Yeah, she is. The next morning, sunlight poured into the market as Quang set up his stall. The sweet scent of fresh corn filled the air, and customers began to gather, drawn by the smell and the cheerful smiles behind the stand. Linda was there beside him, handing out samples and chatting with customers. Her presence made everything smoother, warmer. As they worked, between one sale and the next, Quang leaned in close and whispered, Next weekend, let's visit Mom again. Linda turned to him with a bright smile. I'd love that. And under the rising sun, with laughter, sweet corn, and gentle glances exchanged, the world felt full of promise, and their future, just beginning to blossom.